If you can hear me or see me, go ahead and send a question in the comment section or in the chat. Sorry. Good morning. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay, I see somebody. If you can hear me, go ahead and put your question into the chat. I'm just waiting for people to come into the chat room. Okay, so I see somebody else that just came in. Let's see. All right, if you're in, please go ahead and type in your question. I will be answering a few questions. All right, well, so let's see. I have a couple of questions coming in. So I just want to thank everybody who is currently here for joining me this morning. Let's see. Okay. So if you're needing some help with this, let me see. All right, if there's anything that you guys are curious about and want to know, feel free to ask. Or throw something out there and then maybe we can talk about it. And this morning a lot of people are back at school. A lot of students are back at school. And I know I was up early this morning with my daughter. She started the fourth grade today. And so I was very pleased with the amount of students that I saw, that were joining her in this distance learning process. So that made me very, happy. And I think they'll be fine. I think it's actually going to be good for them, you know. Because for some reason I feel like even when they're at school, it might be more scary to actually be at school because there's so many restrictions, and with them being at home, there's a little bit more flexibility there. So let me know if you guys agree with that. Okay, so I have a question. Um, and a lot of these are anonymous, actually. So this one is it normal to not be allowed any screen time until 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I think it's normal. Um, I try to I try to actually do this with my daughter where, she's not allowed to have any screen time until after 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Anytime before that, she should be, going outside to catch some fresh air. Um, you know, there's other options: journaling, meditation, yoga, listening to some music to kind of get your day started. But I definitely think that that's normal. And then especially for the kids who are doing distance learning, I would say you want to really limit your screen time as much as possible, especially because you're going to be on the computer or a tablet, or looking at a screen for pretty much for a good amount of time during the day. Let's see. Hmm. Okay. Let's see. What are my thoughts about the lack of leadership in our country? Um, I'm not really big on politics. I will just be honest. When it comes down to leadership, I don't want to really say that there's a lack of. I would like to say that a lot of people are silenced because there's a lot of fear there. So, some of us who don't really have an issue with speaking up and speaking out, the ones who we would really go to for that leadership, it's like a lot of us are silenced and not really wanting to really put ourselves out there so much because it's like you say something and then you get blasted for it, or you say something and you're canceled. So, so I would say that the best way to kind of address this is to really knowledge is power. If we know something, then we need to share it. I wouldn't say everything is for the internet. Everything is not for social media. Everything is not for telephone conversations, unfortunately. But if we have the opportunity to be able to have certain, you know, conversations with our children, grandchildren, and kind of get the conversations going like that, then I think that we have a good chance of getting somewhere, getting further than where we are right now. Any other questions? Okay, so I have a question. Let's see. My mother-in-law expects my husband and me to continue raising his niece, who is 15, even though we're expecting our first child this year. Am I being selfish by wanting my sister-in-law to raise her own kids? Absolutely not. I mean, I think this time right now, that you're experiencing, if it's your first child, especially, you guys want this time to really experience this without having anyone else to consider, which is completely understandable. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You know, especially first times. You want it's a whole new experience, and there's a fantasy that some of us actually we miss out on it because, of course, life doesn't always go how we plan. And so if you have the opportunity to be able to, you know, talk to your sister-in-law in order for her to get her daughter back, then I would say, if it's a safe environment for her to be in, then you should definitely have that conversation with her. 15 is old enough for her to be able to understand somewhat of what you may be trying to do. So I would say go for it if it's a safe environment, and good luck with that. Let's see. All right. So as parents, what are our responsibility to our own self-care? Not feeling guilty every time we do something for ourselves. So it's I would say drawing a line between you and the children. Like it's okay to give yourself that space. Sometimes, like bath time, if you give yourself like a bath time, or first thing in the morning, if you want to just step outside to be able to get some fresh air, spend a few minutes listening to music as you're straightening up or whatever first thing in the morning. Yeah, don't feel bad about it. Kids get older and it happens so fast. So um don't feel bad about doing what you need to do in order to take care of yourself. Eventually, you know, you want to create a balance to where that they're getting their needs met, if not all, most. I mean, it happens. Certain things will fall through the cracks, but as long as you're doing your best to make sure that everything is in order, or as in order as possible, then you shouldn't have a problem later on down the line. And so, if you do have any issues later on when kids get older, then try to do your best to communicate with them or to them, what you were doing. It's like self-care is important. And I think a lot of kids don't, or even teenagers don't get the opportunity to have those conversations with their parents, because their parents are, they have a lot going on too. So it's understandable. My daughter actually had told me recently, she was like, "Mom, you have a lot of stuff going on, and I want to be able to help you." And I told her, I said, "No, it's not your responsibility to help me. I'm your mom. I'm the parent, and just because you see me kind of like here, there, and everywhere sometimes doesn't mean that I can't handle it." So I'm doing my best to try to create a schedule that works for our household. That way, you know, there's that structure there. And so it takes work. It's quite a few of us in the house. But thank goodness everybody has their separate corners to go to. We're not bunched up, uh, together. So we get the opportunity to be able to breathe and get our alone time, even if you have to s- spend a couple of extra minutes in the bathroom. Take a book in there, a newspaper, your phone. You got to make it work. Let's see, any more? Okay, so I have another question that just came through. What are your thoughts on the uncertainty of the direction of our country and the lack of knowledge of the average citizen? That's a really good question. Okay, so I think we're in an interesting time right now where the veil is, you know, where we're just everything is being revealed and opening up. We're in a really interesting time, but I also am grateful for this time, because it's like um we have the opportunity to be able to see what this world really is made of. Like, there is so much uncertainty. and it's all over the world, and it is scary, you know. However, I do think that we have to we don't need to be afraid to be able to really talk about this, to really dig deep. And I think the lack of knowledge, I think there's a lot of people that probably really know what's going on too, but because of the fear, they're not some of us don't get to come across that information simply because either it's being removed from the internet, or they're being threatened not to say anything. So we have to use our common sense and our intuition, and know that that's not right. If people are not saying anything, and it's like we feel that the world is in chaos, then it's probably because we are living in chaos. This it is what's happening. So but there's tons of information on the internet. There's tons and tons and tons of information. A lot of it is not mainstream, so there are some of us who we have to dig very deep in order to get the information. And and some of us are fortunate to be able to have uh conversations with people who are actually uh, probably closer to the source than we are. So yes, common sense is very, very urgent. All right, so let's see. Okay, so how are you guys feeling? Let's see. Okay, so here's an interesting one. This is from a parent. My 13-year-old daughter ran away from home. I'm texting her from a different number and she doesn't know it's me. How can I sound like a convincing teenager with all of the slang teens use today? Mm, don't play games with your child. You have to, I would say, if anything, you should probably start the conversation with letting her know that you love her and that you care about her and her safety. This is definitely um and this is not to scare anybody, but human trafficking, sex trafficking, all of that stuff is going on, you know, right now, and you want to be very careful with how you're dealing with your kids. I'm coming across a lot of teenagers um, who are trying to hurt themselves, who are very depressed. They're getting their phones taken away, and so they're needing somebody to talk to. So if this is happening, and you are the parent, I would say don't don't take your child's phone away, but use this as an opportunity to be able to have conversations with them. If they're bringing certain things up, don't hesitate to talk about it. You know, sometimes it's like we we shoo our kids away when they're at their most in their most vulnerable state, and that's what leads them to run away, or that's what, that's basically giving them permission to go find help or go find that support elsewhere. So you have a lot of runaways because of this. And if they're not running away, then unfortunately, some of these, teens or kids are trying to do the worst. So please be careful with how you're dealing with your kids. And let's see. Okay, so I have a question in regards to blended families, more specifically, the time and effort it takes to successfully come together in one solid unit. Communication is everything, between you and your spouse or the person who you may be dating. You want to be very mindful that it's not only you that is in the relationship, but if you have, you have children involved, and maybe extended, grandparents or step grandparents and all of that to be able to consider, you want to make sure that that you guys communicate. Communication is everything when it comes down to creating a solid foundation for a blended family. And that goes for even multiracial, multicultural relationships. Everything in the book can come up, and you want to make sure that you create a solid plan in order to to make sure that everybody gets to that finish line, or um, feels supported in the environment, and in the family. So communication and consideration, the teaching of mindfulness, you know, and inclusiveness. Everybody may not want to be included, and those things should be discussed up front. And they should also, yeah, those things should just be discussed up front. I'll actually create a couple of videos in regards to this, or videos in regards to into how to successfully build or create a blended family. Let's see. So how to let's see. Navigating through the pandemic during the time of COVID-19. What are some valuable lessons? That this world is built on materialistic values. That's how I feel. I think I think this time was a blessing in disguise for a lot of people, because it lit that fire within us in order to be able to, jump into those online classes that we've been staring at, that's been coming through our emails, and, um, you know, self awareness, really putting together a solid plan. A lot of us don't know how to save. And so this was a perfect time to acknowledge the fact that maybe we have not been saving. We're not as prepared as we should be if something were to happen. And for those of us who have backyards, and who own properties and things like that, gardens, we want to be gardening. We want to make sure that we are keeping us our keeping ourselves sustained through times like this. What is my position on children being introduced to responsibility, chores, etc., and what is your personal opinion on the pros and cons of the introduction to responsibility at a young age? Honestly, I don't think there's anything wrong with introducing a child to responsibility. I think in order for it to be done successfully, there needs to be stability. So if the entire family is not on the same page with and not giving support to the parents, then everything can kind of go out the window when it comes down to the child. And so you want to make sure that even before you have kids, of course we don't live in a world where things just happen the way that we want to. But if it's up to us, and we have the time to be able to plan for a situation, i would say I would say just making sure that your foundation is solid, so that when the child does come into the world, you have consistency across the board. So let's see. I have a 3-year-old, and he needs some chores. But I mean, honestly, he's already cleaning up his own room. He has his room is pretty much organized and is set up in a way for him to be able to put his toys away. And you know, and so he's able to it's all set up for him. So he can put his own toys away. He knows how to make his bed a little bit. Just fluff up his pillow and put his sheet or comforter back over, and go. I think starting them off early. Everybody says, "Oh, kids are sponges," and indeed they are. But showing them early and having that consistency is you know what they'll grow with, and that's what you want. Sometimes we end up having to backtrack with um, with some of our older kids, depending on what they might have gone through, whether it's trauma or you know um, going from household to household, that instability that I'm talking about. And so when you finally do see yourself in a stable situation, a stable environment, then you want to try to make sure that everything is as solid as possible. Let's see. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So, what advice would you give to a new parent mapping out a future during this pandemic? Planning is everything. Knowledge and planning is everything. You know, some of the states that we live in, they require your children to have certain shots before they're able to go to school. So if you are in a state that requires you to have shots in order for them to go to school, but you don't feel comfortable enough taking them into a doctor's office, you know, you have to use your common sense when it comes down to most of it, and do your research. So I would say spending time on that research is everything right now, and using your gut instinct. If it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. So, because that can put yourself and your children at risk. Let's see. As far as mapping out a future, um, just have faith. Have faith that it's all gonna work out somehow, and that it's gonna be okay. You know, because at the end of the day, if we're in a slump every single day, like, oh my gosh, I can't get back to work. Oh my goodness, you know, I can't do this, I can't do that. Then you're not allowing yourself time to be able to be present with yourself in order to gain like or to allow your creative juices to flow. You know, there's a lot of people who are struggling during this time right now, whether it's emotionally, you know, physically, and all of that. But we also have the opposite of that, where we can actually, you know, read books. I have The Path right here, Mastering the Nine Pillars of Resilience and Success. This is a great book by Dr. Steven Sideroff that you might want to read, and and I'll put the links to the book in the description box for this video if you would like to get a copy. But like I said, research. There's so much stuff going on. If there's a class that you wanted to take that. Not only is my daughter in distance learning, but she's also doing online voice lessons as well as graphic design. There's so much that we can be doing. So so yeah, I hope that answered your question a little bit. I know I kind of veered off into something else, but I hope that helped you guys. All right, so is there anything else? Let's see. All right. So I thank you guys so much for joining me today. I Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I need to thank you. Okay, so we actually have a couple more questions coming through. Let's see. How do you guys feel about the kids going back to school? We have the opportunity to choose whether she can go back to school, traditional school, or do online distance learning. And so we chose distance learning. And I actually have a video that will be coming out soon where I kind of show you the setup, everything that was provided by the school to us. She received a Chromebook and then a set of workbooks, as well as a distance learning friendship bracelet that her and all of her classmates received. I thought that was pretty cool. Let's see. Okay. How do you juggle being a mom, entrepreneur, maintain a relationship, and give to yourself? It's not easy, but like I said, about the blended families, you communication is everything. So I can't I can't be too afraid to ask for help. You know, sometimes I'm prideful and I don't want to ask for the help, but I quickly realize that as soon as I ask for it, then it's given to me. So I don't feel so bad, you know. And so I'm very grateful for that, you know, and scheduling. You know, I have to stay on top of a schedule. That's the only way that it can be done successfully when you know, when you're a mom, especially when you're a mom to, you know, children in different age groups. It gets a little tricky because if you have one that's like you have one that's in school and then you have one who's not quite in school but you know, but it's like, you know, 3 years old, and then you possibly, you know, some of us we have newborns and things like that, so you really need a schedule if you're getting up a couple of times in the night to be able to care for your newborns, and then just a short you know, time later you're up again with your 9-year old, you know, making sure that she gets ready for online schooling. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so I have an interesting one. Let's see. Male versus female mindset. Let's see. What's your opinion? How do you attempt to find common ground without offense or discomfort and a and gain clarity? Empathy. You really want to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes when you're talking to them, and give yourself the opportunity to gain that understanding. It takes patience. If you're not patient, then you can't get from point A to point B. So you want to allow yourself and give yourself permission to get to the understanding. So that goes for both parties. Both parties have to be willing. If they're not, then it can be a huge struggle. And so, patience, the goal of wanting to get to that understanding, and you know, and allowing yourself to not judge. It's that part is very important. You don't, I mean, it's not you, it's how how someone else is feeling, and they're entitled to their truth. it's it's their truth. So, you know, it's like, of course we can be afraid to hear what people have to say all day long, but doesn't serve it doesn't serve us to not be able to gain that understanding and that clarity. And this is huge in families too. I mean, you know, a lot of us tend to feel alone when and there's people around us all the time. That doesn't make sense. And it shouldn't make sense if if everybody has the same feeling of feeling alone. I shouldn't feel alone if you're right here next to me, or if you're right here in front of me. You know, it's all about that connection. So let's see. Okay, so how do I book you for live coaching sessions? Let's see. All right, so you can book me on www.mymentor.life/Elogia Penny. And I will go ahead and leave that information in the comment section. I'm sorry, in the description box. And that information is in the about section on the channel as well. Okay, so let's see. All right, so what videos do I have coming out soon? Yeah, so I actually just recorded a video yesterday with actor and dancer Jermaine Williams. He has a lot of us probably know him from Stomp the Yard, the Fat Albert movie, and let's see, The Great Debaters. And so that was a very exciting and informative and enlightening interview. So stay tuned for that. I recently did a video on that hasn't been released yet on scams, on wig scams. I purchased a couple of wigs from one of these online stores, and I got the wigs, and they were nothing like what I thought that I was ordering. So stay tuned for that video. And so the video that I did with Jermaine yesterday was actually sponsored by the Garifuna International Indigenous Film Festival. And so I just want to give a shout out to them and thank you so much for the sponsorship. And yeah, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I haven't had lunch, and I am starting to get hungry. So thank you for all of your support, and keep the comments and questions coming. If you guys need anything, don't hesitate to book a session with me. Once again, it's www.mymentor.life/Elogia Penny. All right. Bye. Have a good day.